Hello, everybody. It's a great day here in Nevada. Beautiful day. I just want to do this video almost tongue-in-cheek, but not quite, because I'm going to talk about, I said before I might specifically talk about or call out different people in the truther movement and just let's say in the media at large, the information that's out there. Now, I'm just a truth seeker and I'm an intuitive. I will call myself a wisdom keeper, which is kind of a form of a shaman. I do a lot of shamanistic practices. I do a lot of esoteric practices, meditation. Been doing it for years. I have also been doing research for years. I have read hundreds of books about just about every topic you can think of, including the history of religion, the history of propaganda, the history of deception, the history of the world, the history of UFOs, the history of just about everything that you can think of. I've delved into pretty deeply. Why? Well, because something is urging me on to do that. There's something about deception that I don't like. There's something about mind control that I don't like. There's something about cults that I don't like. There's something about the government that I don't like. Why don't I like these things? Well, because I've done extensive research into the history of everything, including religion, UFOs, government intel, war. I am a martial artist, by the way, among other things. Just in case people were wondering, I'm pretty transparent about my roots, being partial native, having native blood. Do I have am I a half-breed? No, but I do have native blood. I am into that tradition. I'm into the traditions of the earth, let's say. But I also, because at times in my life, let me just qualify this. At times in my life, I have been taken in. Now, of course, I was a lot younger. I have been taken in. I have been bamboozled. I have been led down the garden path. I have bought into things that I shouldn't. And if you look at my videos, you'll see that my viewpoints on certain things change over time. But the basic criteria of all my videos has been to expose, let's say the dark archontic entities on the planet that are manipulating mankind. Now, I have been watching a lot of stuff lately to see just which way the wind blows. I listen to the wind, just like my book, Listen to the Wind. Speak from the Heart. It is an award-winning book. And if you want to buy that book, go to spiritofcrazyhorse.com and check it out. I'm not pushing it. I'm not a big, I got to make money, man. Got to have that money. Got to get out there and have fame and fortune. I'm way beyond that, people. I have done many things in my life that I have been successful at. I won't say that I've made $1 million or that I'm financially free. Of course I'm not. I don't know too many people except those in the 1% that are financially free. Do I like money? Yeah. I'm using a lot of qualifying conversation here to let you know where I'm coming from, to try to impart to you wisdom. I've studied also the art of war and the art of combat and the art of stealth propaganda, covert operations. I'm going to qualify myself right now, and if you have any questions you want to ask me, feel free. Now, this is all leading up to a search for the truth in a world of mass deception. It's real easy to buy into things if it makes you feel good, okay? And that's all an illusion, feeling good, okay? I could talk about that for hours. So as I watch some of these truthers, okay, or let's just say alternative media, they all seem to be coming from a certain area. They're all linked up in their narrative by certain, let's say, ideas in that narrative. Where do these ideas come from? Where do these people come from? That's the first thing as a true, let's say, investigative reporter for Mother Earth. I am a true Kalika warrior in the tradition of Kali, the Hindu goddess that likes to cut the heads off of enemies and evil ones. So I said before that I might mention some names, and when I mention these names, I don't want anybody to take the thought, okay, that somehow I'm the amazing Randy that is trying to debunk I always hated that guy, trying to debunk everything that walks, any thought that arises out of the norm, let's say. That's not me. That's not what I'm all about. So I'm going to mention some people's names, and I'm going to qualify this by saying that if any of these people have the balls, okay, because this has really gone too far. If any of these people that I talk about today have the balls to want to question what I'm just going to posit some questions here about what they're saying and what they're doing and where it's coming from. And if they have the balls to interview me, I'm readily available. Okay, I'm readily available. I will talk to you on the air. You can field any kind of questions to me you want. I am not afraid of truth, and I'm not afraid of talking to you face to face. So I'll make that qualification, and another one is I'm not out here to slander, I'm just asking questions. Okay? And if these questions are valid, then it's going to ring true with you and other people. My whole purpose is not to be led astray by the same people that these truthers are saying are leading people astray and causing havoc on earth. So there's probably two categories of people here that I'm going to talk about. Some are totally aware, okay, of what they're doing and the fact that they're misleading, okay, that they're part of some deep covert psyop by the government. There's those people that are aware that they're doing that, and then there's the people that I will call useful idiots, okay, that get sucked into some kind of a cult, a groupthink. Let's put it that way. We'll call it a groupthink. And it's easy to get sucked into this, especially if you have some kind of moral imperative to make money and to spread the truth or whatever. It's easy to get sucked into this and Again, I'm not slandering anybody. I'm just going to tell you what my experience has been and what my thoughts have been concerning this. And it's up to you to decide which group of people that I mentioned earlier, about the ones that are useful idiots or the ones that know what they're doing. It's up for you to decide. I'll just present my narrative or my, let's say, conclusions from research and just from my age and my wisdom and all the stuff that I've been through in my life. And so, it all compiles up to, well, I can either spread this wisdom around or my thoughts around. Just put it out there and see if anybody agrees or not. But my purpose is to help humanity in the long run. It's to help humanity. I have an honest, heartfelt purpose here. It's not to try to make people feel bad or anything like that. Although I have a propensity for completely blowing belief systems out of the water, false belief systems. Now, I'm going to start off by some of my first exposure in this latest round of so-called alternative media or truthers or whatever. So my first exposure was to a man called Simon Parkes. This is an individual that has a huge organization, Collective Consciousness. He resides in the UK. And there's another person that is pretty much closely aligned, although they sometimes have a little bit of a falling out, but that would be Charlie Ward. Now, out of these two groups of people, Charlie Ward and Simon Parkes, and Simon is a very likable character. Seems to have a heartfelt bent to him, and that's why I gave him any credence at all. And again, it's up to you to decide on this stuff, okay? So Charlie Ward and Simon Parkes, those are the first people that I kind of started listening to after the Trump debacle. And I call that a debacle. I won't call that anything but a debacle. Was it a planned debacle? Is Trump a good guy or a bad guy? Good guy or bad guy? The white hats and the black hats. I mean, I'm just going to have fun with this today. So we got Charlie Ward and Simon Parkes, and they started coming up with all kinds of different things right at about the time that whole supposed faulty election or fraudulent election, shall I say. Well, hell, we don't know. We have no idea if that was planned either. So you have Charlie Ward and you have Simon Parkes, and then spawned off of that, okay, came all kinds of people that are related to this Charlie Ward, Simon Parkes thing. And you have these people, and I'll just go through the list. So some of the ones, there's more than I can even mention here, but they're all coming from the same narrative. But I'll just name some main characters. So there's Mel K, okay. There's David Nino Rodriguez. There's Micheal Jaco. There's Tarot by Janine. She seems to be buying into this narrative also. And I think a guy named Nicholas Veneman or I don't know what he is. He's a French guy and he does a lot of interviews. They all seem to spawn off this Charlie Ward, Simon Parkes thing. And the narrative from them is that, let me say that Simon actually said that he talked to Q. You know, that's another movement I'm leery of. And Charlie Ward will say things like, this is all a pantomime, and Biden is not really Biden. He's a clone, and he's been executed. He's been sent to Gitmo, or it is said now that it's not Gitmo anymore. It's called the spa. There's all kinds of catchwords and phrases here. They're at the spa. They've been sent to Gitmo. They've been arrested. They've been taken on a plane to this, and they have ankle bracelets on for monitoring them. And Hillary's been executed, and I mean, it just goes on and on and on. I mean, it's really, I mean, at first blush, after, you know, when you see this stuff, right away, little red flags start going up in your mind. Well, can any of this stuff be proven? Can any of the things that they talk about on there, like the Patriot Alliance and the white hats and the black hats, and this operation and that operation is taking place, and this and that is happening, and we should see some results here, or another common theme is if anything bad happens in the world, well, that's actually the white guys, or the white hats doing this operation. Might be the most horrific operation in the world. They don't care. Then there's another narrative that came out of this group about the alien thing kind of plays into it a little bit, and the military's in control, and that they're going to save humanity, and there's a alliance behind the scenes, and there's going to be a new financial system that's instituted called Nasara. And there's med beds that heal people in a matter of days. And all of this stuff is based on people's fears, okay, of even death, and fears of life in general. I mean, fears of what's going on around us, fears of, and it offers some kind of solution, only really it's not a solution, because this ongoing battle, okay, that these people talk about between the alliance, and this has even gone, like I say, let me mention another guy, Michael Salla, who's written several books, who is pumping the off-world galactic federation is going to save us. And he has even mentioned these people as being white hats and black hats. I did a video on this. It's all a hoax, the white hat and black hat thing. Excuse me, I'm going to have a little champagne, a bottled beer here, Miller. This isn't an advertisement either. My dad used to drink it. Got to keep the throat clear so I can talk, you know. See, I'm very transparent about what I do. So it's even been elevated into the UFO community, which, if you want, now one of the hundreds and hundreds of books I read is called Masters of Deception by Jacques Vallée, a nice author, a very good, honest author that talks about how the UFO phenomena could be co-opted, okay, by the government to for another false flag thing and another deception, okay? So this stuff is really, really, on one hand, it's like, oh yeah, well, something's being done about the horrific situation we live in. On the other hand, you're like, Jesus, really? I mean, these people are really going out on a limb. I mean, they've given specific dates when things were going to happen. Of course, they never panned out. So let's start with Mel K here, off of this offshoot of, because somehow my heart was kind of endeared to her. I'll have to admit that. And I think that she's sincere in the fact that she's putting out a lot of good intel about, let's say, the history of the deception and the dark forces at work here, the Rothschilds and the central banks and, all the different players like Soros and Bill Gates and all that shit, which is something that you can research on your own. And she's done quite a bit of research in exposing, putting a lot of truth out there. So at some level, I kind of want to give her a pass, but even though I'm kind of giving these people a pass, it's like, well, what are you doing about the situation besides just talking about how bad it is? Are you giving any solutions? And this goes with everybody that I'm going to talk about today. Do you give people any solutions? Do you give any people comfort in trying times? Or do you just keep repeating the same old narrative about how bad shit is and why it's bad and who's doing it? And if you watch her, she says the same stuff over and over and over and over again, ad nauseum, okay? And you can't stop her from talking when she starts talking. You just can't stop her. There's no stopping her. She travels a lot. See, that's one of the things that kind of bothers me too, is that these people seem to have all kinds of bucks to travel here and there, and they have their little congregational meetings in Vegas, and they're more like parties, okay? And all these people go there, and who is the head of, who's the main guy? Now we're going to get to another guy here. We're going to get to 107 or 107 as they call him, who to me is just, let's put it this way, he never shows his face, he only shows pictures of his boots. He talks on endlessly and endlessly. He's supposedly one of the navigators or mentors of this whole movement to reinstate a former president that you know who I'm talking about. That's another thing about this movement that links them all together, is this Mr. T, which they refuse to say his name because they don't want to get taken down on YouTube. That scenario is also in this mix, okay, of somehow him being a savior or a let's say a strong political figure or a strong leader for the Patriot Truth movement, and in alliance supposedly with the military, okay? Now, I'm just presenting what they're saying here. I'm not saying anything that they don't say. Then the next person I'm going to jump to is this David Nino Rodriguez, and he's an ex-fighter, and he's actually, I took kind of a liking to him too. I can take a liking to a personality, but then as you listen to what comes out of their mouth, it gives you pause. Okay, it gives you pause. Now, he likes to get on there, and he's a pretty funny guy, and he does impressions, and he does Edward G. Robinson, he does a little Chinese guy, and he does all these little impressions, and he keeps saying, coming at you live from the apocalypse. Okay, well, that right there is a problem with me, because the apocalyptic thing is an orchestrated thing. And he's a Christian, a Catholic, yet he swears like a sailor. And he does what I call really, really pumping like I might mention my book, because I want people to get to really read some truth, okay? But he's out there pumping his book, his mom's book. He's saying, Venmo me. He's saying all this stuff, send me money. I wouldn't be here talking in, on and on and on. And his advertisements are just too many, too much. It's overwhelming. And he continues on in his jovial, clown-like way. Now, this guy, he seriously could fall into that category of useful idiot, although I won't say he's an idiot. Let's say a useful pawn in his case. He seems to be enamored by this 107 or 107. Now, the first time I heard about 107 was from Micheal Jaco. Now, I don't know if he was the first one to interview him or not, but this guy happened upon the scene just right after all of these big conflicts about the election. And that's another thing, these people go on and on and on about audits and this and that, and this is going to reveal this, and this is going to never does, though. Nothing ever comes of it. Oh, but it's going to take time, you see. That's the narrative. It's going to take a long time to undo the hundreds of years of deception, and well, good luck with that. Good luck with that. These people basically are amateurs. Now let's jump to Micheal Jaco real quick here. He's supposedly an ex-Navy SEAL, and he probably is an ex-Navy SEAL. I wouldn't doubt that, because he has books out, and he's not on the wall of shame that I can tell. I have checked the wall of shame. Well, what's the wall of shame? Well, the wall of shame is a website that exposes phony Navy SEALs, okay? And that's a good thing, because I don't think people should be out there proclaiming. So he's not proclaiming they're a Navy SEAL. So he's not a phony in that regard. Now, he says he was in the CIA. Well, that's not something I'd brag about, but he says he was for 25 years or something. Boy, that sent up a bunch of red flags immediately. I don't know if I'd brag about that. I might mention it if I was in his shoes. But on the other side, now this is really a hard one to kind of grasp. On the other side, he says he's a complete intuitive. He's almost like he had remote views. He can see things. Well, if he can see things, why is he not telling what he really sees? And he's a remote viewer, and well, that's an easy thing to say that you are, unless you really are. Oh, and he used to be in a secret space force, and these guys that were taken off to other planets and all this stuff. And I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And he does the same thing. He gets on there and he puts some clickbait on there to get your attention. And then all of this stuff that they talk about all the time is the current medical crisis and all these guys that are fighting it. Oh, here's another guy, too. I just happen, as I talk about this stuff, Gene Decode is another guy that's constantly being interviewed, and he's the one that is pushing all these things about the deep underground military bases called DUMBs, and that there's aliens down there, and there's hundreds of thousands of kids being tortured. That connects right in with the Mel K, Charlie Ward, Simon Parkes thing. This is all the same narrative everywhere you go. Well, that right there should make you stop and question. Okay? Why are all of these people talking about the same narrative, the same thing over and over and over again? And yet there's no proof about some of the stuff these guys talk about, wars going on underground. And yeah, I know there's deep underground military bases, and I know about Cheyenne Mountain, and I know about the deep caves and government facilities in Dulce, New Mexico. I know all about these things. I'm not a dumb shit. I have researched all of this stuff. As a matter of fact, I researched this stuff, a lot of the stuff that they're saying, to find the veracity of it. I researched this stuff 10 years ago. I mean, I did a thing on Jade Helm, which was an operation conducted by the government. I did that probably 5 to 7 years ago. Can't remember now. And many of the same things that they're talking about now actually happened 7 years ago. Okay, the FEMA camps being set up, Walmart's being taken over to set up FEMA camps, and hundreds of thousands of plastic caskets. I mean, I researched all of this stuff. Okay, some of it is true and some of it isn't, but it can be useful fodder, okay, to add into the mix here. So this stuff is really far-fetched. Of course, life's far-fetched, and there are some far-fetched things that you wouldn't believe. Cattle mutilations, UFOs. That's totally open to your perceptions. I firmly believe in unidentified flying objects, or whatever they want to name, they want to put on them now. They've been around a long time. Problem is, where are they around from? Could it be our own government with advanced technology? Well, of course it could. Of course it could. The technology is so far advanced now that it would make your head spin. But to get back on track here, all of these people are buying into all of these different narratives. But it basically, what it amounts to is, don't worry, the white hats are working on this, and the alliance, and there's going to be a change of consciousness, and there's going to be awakening, and there's going to be enlightenment, and there's going to be a new world. Well, that whole concept in the Nasara thing, that I hate to inform people of this, but that is actually a concept of the New World Order. Okay. Is that we don't have to worry about money anymore, and everybody's going to be peaceful and be controlled by benevolent forces. Okay. And then if you go to the alien thing, well, there's benevolent star brothers that are fighting a battle in outer space. I'm just telling you what I'm hearing, people. If this sounds far-fetched to you, well, you're not the only one. You're not the only one. But let's get down to the nitty-gritty here now, okay? This could be a massive deception, okay? It could be a massive takeover, okay, of alternative media. It could be a massive covert psychological operation by the powers to be. These people could either be useful idiots, or they could be buying into the money game, getting paid to do what they do, or they could be totally mind controlled somehow. That's a possibility too. That's a distinct possibility. In other words, they might be innocent victims as well. That's for you to decide, okay? But innocent victim or not, being paid by the government or not, being manipulated by mass consciousness or not, I'm outside of that. I have an open mind. I look at all things because I wouldn't be looking at these people if I didn't have an open mind, didn't give them the benefit of the doubt. But once I do research, it's hard to tell where these people come from. I've done research on this. It's hard to find the roots of Simon Parks. They say he was in the Navy. That's about as much as I can find as a young man. What about Charlie Ward? I could barely find anything about Charlie boy. And as far as this 107 or 107, I did find out some stuff about him. It's out on the internet. You can see it yourself about how he was a grifter and took on several different names. And it's about as much as I could find out on him. There's very little information about some of these people, which also makes you wonder, doesn't it? All of a sudden, the information about these people, birth dates and all that stuff, is kind of hard to find. Now, I must admit, I just did a cursory examination of these people because I could have dug much deeper, spent much more time. If anybody else out there has any additional information, I'm all ears. I'm all ears. So to put things in perspective here, if you have done the research that I have on deception, the art of war, what they, and by they I mean what the dark powers do, okay, when they want to manipulate a community or want to manipulate a war or want to go in to another country and manipulate the total infrastructure of that country. Now, I've mentioned this before, and I challenge you to go out there yourself and do a Google search or a DuckDuckGo search or whatever. Type in the Army's Unconventional Warfare Manual. Type that in, Army Unconventional Warfare Manual. See what you come up with. Well, you'll come up with the actual manual in PDF form. And that manual is probably 1.5 inches, 2 inches thick if you printed it out. And it's unbelievable. I mean, you couldn't even read through that whole thing. All you can do is like do a speed read on certain parts of it without actually getting to the point of anger. Okay? Let me tell you a little bit about the Unconventional Warfare Manual by the Army. You would not believe that they have every base covered inside out, forwards, backwards, upside down. There's implicit detail in there about how they... Now see, they put this in the context of going into other countries to establish democracy and free people from enslavement, from dictators and stuff like that. You know, that the context of this Unconventional Warfare Manual is one that paints themselves as crusaders, okay, to go in and save people, but yet The techniques that they use couldn't even be described as any kind of democratic or fair, or in fact the techniques they use are the same ones that they're using on this country right now. They're the same ones. That's how I can spot these people. See, this is the caveat to this video here. You go in there and you look at some of the stuff that they do. I mean, they got it all covered. They have a section in there about media. They have a section in there about internet. They have a section in there about any kind of communication whatsoever. They have a section in there about different kinds of groups that arise. They have information in there as to how they infiltrate these groups and steer the thinking of these groups, unbeknownst to the groups themselves. They have techniques for going in and making false groups, like alternative media. They have techniques for taking over authorities, influencing authorities, mind control. It's pretty scary, really. If you start getting into it, it's like, oh man, I don't want this stuff in my consciousness. I don't want to read this shit. It's pretty bad. I challenge you to go and download that or go look at it online. It will give you some idea. I mean, they perform double bluffs, double bluff being saying one thing that leads to another that opposes supposedly something bad they're doing. And I mean, it just goes, and it's really a bluff. Okay, and then they use double bluffs, and they use all kinds of techniques, mind control, MK Ultra. Of course, we know about that, but the subtle nuances of the stuff they use in all areas, and they got it all covered. Believe me, they have religion covered, they have politics covered, they have the media covered, they have social living conditions covered, they have just the everyday workings of society covered. And what do I mean by covered? Well, by covered, I mean they know how to go in there and turn it around directly on its head and present something that isn't. They pay people off, they blackmail people, they hire people that are in certain groups. They either blackmail them with sex or they just pay them off. I mean, everybody has a price, except yours truly here. Everybody has a price. And they know how to manipulate to the nth degree. They know how to manipulate. They know how to blackmail. They know how to bribe. And this stuff is stuff that the common man would cave to. I mean, if any, they'll even resort to torture and threats of family and all kinds of stuff to get what they want. Okay, and I'm talking not just low-level people. I'm talking about Congress going in and planting people in Congress. And I'm talking they're talking in this manual about foreign countries, but don't you think they do that shit right here? And if you don't, you're naive as fuck. Really, I mean, just to put it blunt, or bluntly. So when I see these people out there, I have to take into account all I know about the art of war and the Unconventional Warfare Manual. And because in order to spot, let's say, spies, okay, in order to spot spies or disinfo agents or anybody of that nature, you have to research things that I have researched. You have to research the history of propaganda. You have to research the the history of warfare. You have to research shitloads of things, people. Do you have the time for that? Or would you rather just take my word for it? And actually, I'm not even asking you to take my word for it. I am saying that if you don't take my word for it, well, then you're going to have to go out and do some digging. And just a little bit of digging might do the trick. I mean, why would I want to stop you from digging and either saying that something I say on here is wrong, or calling me out on something? And like, well, you know what? If I'm wrong about something, and I have been lots of times, then I'll admit it. Because I'm not the kind of guy that wants false information out there. Now, having said that, as I go along, learn more and more and more. And there's such a difference, there is a difference between disseminating outright false information, or making a mistake, or maybe not having enough information, and it's called the growing process, people. The growing pursuit of enlightenment, knowledge, wisdom. How do you get that wisdom? Well, you don't just sit around on your ass and expect others to just hand it out to you. But then the ones that have wisdom, like myself, also have a conscience. And that conscience says, hey, you know what? People should know this. People should know this shit. But I'm telling you, it's really pathetic when you go out there and you start watching these people. Oh, I left out Tarot by Janine. She gets on there with tarot cards. Well, I've been into tarot cards for a long, long time, because they have a real value if you use them correctly. But she gets on there and whips out her cards and talks about the white hats and the black hats, and they're doing this, and is this true or is it not true? And I'm looking at the cards she's spreading out there, and she's like interpreting them any way she sees fit. All right? Just like the Bible and the tarot cards, or any esoteric source or system or anything, it's all open to interpretation. You got to kind of get beyond that interpretation and try to feel what the true meaning is behind things. I've put comments on her side, Micheal Jaco's side, and I even got an email once from Rodriguez, short one-liner. Have tried to contact all of these different people, letting them know that I'm an author and a respected person, and wanting to question certain things that they were saying, or maybe even come on their show and do an interview. Do they ever answer me? The comments disappear. That's a sign. When you say something truthful or you call them out, the comments disappear. There is no reciprocation of email communication. I have communicated with some people and they have acknowledged me, and I consider these people the cream of the crop as far as being on the right track, and truthful people. Have been in touch with more, shall I say, authors, fellow authors that write revealing books and say revealing things. They know me for what I am. They know the truth of it. They don't even question it. I don't have thousands of viewers, and some of these people that I talk about that are world-renowned Gnostic teachers and all kinds of things, authors, and do they have a huge following like these people? I mean, they might have maybe 10,000 followers, as opposed to these other, well, I shouldn't do any name calling, these other people that have 100,000 viewers that ain't saying shit, don't have any kind of wisdom, knowledge, and I mean true wisdom and true knowledge, and are able to dig deep into all kinds of areas like myself. That's why I can connect with these people. But these other people that I've tried to communicate, they're either afraid or too busy going on their trips. That's another thing. I mean, this is another thing, people. These people that I'm talking about are constantly traveling. And people like Charlie Ward and Simon Parks, they have these huge organizations. And Simon Parks admits that his father or mother was in MI6 or something. These people travel, okay? A lot of these people are constantly going here and going there, and they're going to parties in Vegas, and they're doing this, and they're going to the football games, and they're traveling everywhere, and you gotta wonder. You gotta wonder. I just shake my head and wonder. I do. I shake my head and wonder. And I have another sip of my Miller's. 1 bottle of beer a day. That's my limit. And maybe a little medicinal herb or something. I don't know. But I'm here to tell you, people, that it's getting to the point right now where it's so critical what's going on out there that you'd have the right to know from somebody that is honest and heartful, speaks from the heart. You have the right to know, even if it's just, what do I get in views? 100 maybe at the most, or 100. Although I've gotten thousands on certain things, like my Hopi Prophecy video and some other videos, I've gotten thousands. But I'm not worried about it, because my vocal imprint is going out into the world. And I'm a true Kalika warrior, and I'm not adverse to violence. That's another thing that is really very, very important here with these truther movements and these movements, is like their main mantra is to remain passive. It's to remain passive and let whoever, the good guys and the white hats and the military or Mr. T or somebody come back in and is going to turn things around, and it's going to be, but when it is turned around, it's going to be totally different in the new financial system. And oh man, really? I get lost in this stuff. I really do. I get lost just talking about it. It's like, it's so goddamn confusing to the normal person out there. They would never even know that they were being taken in. But yet, just look at the actions of these people and look at what they're saying and look at how much they travel. This Jaco guy travels too. And he sure seems flamboyant about being a Navy SEAL. I mean, I have worked with Navy SEALs before, okay, in a contract capacity for hand-to-hand combat. I've been in the martial arts for years and years and years. I know a few Navy SEALs as friends. Where they are now, I have no idea, but I have known a few as friends, hung out with them, talked for hours. These people are not the type, the real warriors are not the type that go out. They don't even want to be known as Navy SEALs. They don't even want to be known as Navy SEALs. they have an adverse reaction to people that go out there and claim they're Navy SEALs and proclaim it day and night. And the real guys, the real deals, they don't even want you to know they're a Navy SEAL. And probably even for their own security, okay? They don't want you to know. And I've worked with these guys. So anyway, I just want you to know I'm not coming from a place of not knowing. I've been around the block a few times, Toto. And I'm streetwise as well. I wasn't raised with a silver spoon in my mouth. I came up pretty hardcore, experienced all the different adversities and fun in life, and been off on all kinds of tangents in the 60s as someone that was involved in the quote-unquote hippie era, as a musician mostly. So I am a true wisdom keeper just because of the gray hair on my head and the shit I've been through, okay? But I have been into tradition also. Deeply, deeply into Native American tradition, Taoist tradition. And just outright down and earthy martial arts and gun shooting and firearms and the whole ball of wax, people. You see that target on the wall back there? You think that's just hanging there for fun? I get out the old laser sight sometimes, do a little dry fire practice. So I'm not some kind of like lily-livered. I'm more of a cut. If you wanted to describe me, I guess you could say I'm kind of an Old West cowboy, an Indian, shamanistic, surfing fool or whatever. I've done it all. Well, most of it, including the whole erotic end of the thing too. So. Yours truly is been around the block a few times, okay? Anybody can dig up anything they want on me. It don't hurt me none. Doesn't hurt me any. I'm totally transparent, okay? I have nothing to hide, not really. I think I probably talked about everything I've done in my over 500 videos or whatever. I just think that we're in a situation now where we really got to pay attention, people. And if you don't pay attention, shame on you. That's all I got to say. Don't expect to get out of this shitstorm we're in. The best thing you can do is equip yourself with knowledge and ground yourself, like I have said before, in Mother Earth. You need to connect on an esoteric, spiritual, whatever you want to call it, level with the energy of the planet. Incidentally, just as the final word for this video, I think this is a good way to end it because I've said enough, but there was an X-class flare yesterday. We're talking X-class flare from the sun. I think it was an X1. I'm into this stuff too because I'm into space and aviation and all that stuff. So, and shortwave radio. So we had an X-class X1 flare. Well, anybody that knows anything about the sun flares, usually we're in what they call an M-class flare, which can be destructive, can cause blackouts in technology. But when you jump up to an X-class flare, You're like going from a magnitude 3 earthquake to maybe a magnitude 9, okay? And these X-class flares, in history, there was a famous event called the Carrington Event, and that was around 1880. And that was an X-class flare, and what did it do? It burnt up all the telegraph wires in the United States, because I think it was on this side of the earth that it happened. It was facing the United States. I'm talking all communications went down, telegraph. And we're talking hard wire here. We're not talking little diodes and chips and integrated circuits and all that shit. So that happened yesterday, and it blacked out. Now get this, it blacked out all shortwave radio transmission in the whole of South America. Okay, that's a big continent. And another thing it did was hurl this giant CME, which stands for coronal mass eruption or ejection. It's hurling this huge storm towards the earth right now. And it's going to hit us when? On Halloween or the day before Halloween. So if you know, I'm not saying that the world's going to black out and that the grid's going to burn up and all that shit. Probably would have done so by now. But when you start getting into the X-class flare thing, that's when it can happen. And you can ask any physicist. The Carrington event, that event that happened in 1880, could happen again, only this time it would burn up all the satellites and most of communication on Earth and all your computers. Excuse me. No more Facebook or anything, you know. No more anything, man. Everything's run by computers now, even the friggin' water systems. Electrical, I mean everything. It would all go down, baby. We'd be back to caveman status, learning how to live off the land and making campfires. So, just shows you the strength of the cosmos, shows you the strength of Mother Earth and her companions. Okay, Mother Earth is a strong, strong entity, and she is alive, and so is the sun and moon in this solar system here. And don't think they don't pick up on dissonance, because they're a person just like we are, only they're in a different form. Don't think that Mother Earth doesn't pick up dissonance and has a relationship with the sun. She might tell the sun, hey, you know what? Things are getting out of hand here. Why don't you spit out a little juice there and get things straightened up? That's entirely possible, people. And that's not to strike fear in anybody's heart or anything. I mean, you know, it's not really. I'd rather take my chances with Mother Nature than human nature, evil human nature that we see surrounding us now. They want to kill you slowly. They want to enslave you. So, the more knowledge that you have, people, I'm just here to spread knowledge. The more knowledge that you have, the better equipped you're going to be to maybe, instead of buying into things that keep you on the edge of your seat, and, oh my God, you know, when are the white hats going to win? And oh, this has got to end soon. And oh, Jesus Christ, my Savior. And oh, the white hat's my Savior. And oh, God's going to help us and things are going to change. And Mr. T's coming back. All this over and over and over again, ad nauseum bullshit. Okay? Don't buy into that. Take a break. Take a deep breath. No, I don't want to say that. That's what 107 said. How about just breathe? Just breathe. You know, relax. Tune into Mother Earth. You ain't going to have any control over this shit. You can't control it. There's no controlling it except by being a spiritual warrior for yourself and the planet. Keep that in mind, people. I'm going to end this video today. And I hope you take account of what I'm saying. You know, I'm here for a reason. I'm here for a reason, and this is one of them. Adios. And when I say adios, I don't necessarily mean go with God. Although it depends on what God you're with, huh? Or goddess. Later.